Hello everyone, Evening with Gelda program has the honor to present you today a notable professional and great poetess. Our guest is Dr. Ritu Kamra Kumar. Dr. Ritu is working in an associate professor in postgraduate Department of English, Milk Law National College, Yamunanagar, India. An avid writer, poetess, and an academic, she has contributed more than 250 write-ups, medals, articles, short stories, and poems in national newspapers such as the Tribune, the Hindustan Times, Deccan Herald, Daily World, Daily Post, and magazines like Woman's Era International Coffee Table Books and anthologies of prose and poetry. Around 30 research papers of his have been published in national and international research journals and anthologies. She has been featured among empowered women in the Hindustan Times. She has won many awards in poetry writing competitions at various global platforms adjudged as Poet of the Month. She has delivered many extensions, lectures in colleges, national seminars, and guided the MPhil students for their dissertations. Her writings range from social subtleties to women's world and contemporary complexities. Her area of interest is feminism, gender studies, and post-colonial studies. She has authored 4 books: Configurational Coordinations of Women's Space in Select Novels of Shashi Deshpande, The Priceless Petals, a collection of medals and essays, The Strokes of Solitude, a collection of medals and essays too, a coffee table book on Milkanda institutions in North India, an anthology of poetry, The Peerless Peers, is under publication. Wow! What can I say? Let's start our interview, dearest poetess. Dear Ritu, what place poetry has in your life?
For me, poetry is language of the soul. It is photography of mind. Just like for a person, reading a newspaper is a routine. He or she cannot do without it. So I am a prolific reader as well as writer. My day is not complete until I read something new, some new poem or a novel, or write something. And poetry is pervasive everywhere. It is there in all the creations of God, be it nature, be it men or women. So poetry for me is very vital, very significant part of my life. I do write, I put the words on paper and I feel therapeutic, I feel light, I feel good. So for poetry, for me, is very significant and important in my life.
Do you think that poetry is the reflection of one's life, and why?
Yes, poetry is reflection of one's life. See, all writing or all poetry is not biography of one's life. If it is not your life, our poet's life, it is somebody's life. Because whatever we write, there are experiences, our thoughts. If we are not writing about our life, we are writing about somebody else's life. Experiences of our friends, of our family, of somebody whom we have met. Poet is a very sensitive person. He or she, whenever moves around, meet people or see things, they get stored in his heart. And whenever he or she sits, they just put those thoughts into words. So poetry is truly reflection of life.
Which poets have inspired you the most?
All material of poetry comes from life, and in life we see the birds, the animals, and everything, which is every creation of God, is what makes the subject matter or the content of poetry. Frankly speaking, my first inspiration has been my mother. She was a writer, she was a poetess, and I think she inculcated in us reading as well as writing. As a family, during dinners, at the time of night, we used to sit and recite poetry. We used to read poems, and this is how writing and reading got inculcated in me. When I grew up, my favorite poets have been Robert Frost, his Birches, Sleeping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and then where he says, miles to say before I sleep, miles to say before I sleep. These lines, I keep on humming these lines. And then Matthew Arnold and his Dover Beach, where he talks about ignorant armies fight by night. He talks about the conflict between faith and intellect. Tennyson, Wordsworth, his Two Daffodils has been one of my favorite. Flash upon the inward eye, which is a bliss of solitude, where he talks about the thousands of daffodils. So W.B. Yeats' Second Coming, Things Fall Apart. There have been many poets who have influenced me, and to name a few will not be doing justice to my readings. So many poets have influenced me. I'm still a learner. I keep on reading poetry and learn different things from every poet and every reading of the poem.
Do you believe that poetry can adapt anything into it? Can you please explain it?
Yes, poetry can adapt anything into it. See, anything that exists on this earth, under this sky, can be the content or the subject matter of poetry. All the creations of God. We human beings are lucky that we have been given the power to think and put those thoughts into words. I would call it a blessing. Anything that exists, be it a tree, be it a small child, be it a baby, be it a working woman, anyone, any experience of life can be put into the form of poetry. So for poetry, we don't have to search material. As a poet, I find wherever I go, I find something to come when I come back and put that something into the form of words. And then that sense of achievement that I have been able to transform my thoughts into the words, it gives me a kind of satisfaction.
What's your opinion about the contemporary poets?
Yes, I do read contemporary poets. And among contemporary poets, I have been deeply influenced by Maya Angelou, Maggie Nelson. Maya Angelou is one of my favorite poetess, and her poem, Still I'll Rise. You keep on worrying me, still I'll rise. And Maggie Nelson, she has also influenced me. And one of her poems, Do you think she will walk again? Do you think she will walk again? That is the poem that is written about a girl who is on the hospital bed. And it is very poignant detail that she depicts in this poetry. And among other poets from India, Kamla Das, though She's a 20th century poetess, but still she has influence. They are very vocal. All these poetesses I'm talking about, they have been very vocal and they have voiced their opinions in a very bold and beautiful way. Lily Swan is another upcoming poet whom I follow regularly. She also writes about diverse objects and things and everything we can talk about, and she writes about that. So these are the poets who have influenced me and I follow them regularly.
Tell us, why do you follow Pen Wonders International Group?
I follow Pen Wonder International regularly. My journey to writing poetry began with this group. Like, I had always been writing prose. Prose has been my forte. But scrolling through the Facebook, I came across some beautiful poetry groups. Pen Wonders International was one of them. And as I scrolled, I found few prompts in the form of line, in the form of picture, and then I started writing poetry. So you can say my journey from prose to poetry started with some poetry groups, and Pen Wonder International is one of them. It is a secular group. Poets from different parts of country, they do write, voice their opinions there, and I learn a lot. And now the thing is that when I sit to write a prose piece, it turns out to be poetry. So such beautiful journey of mine has been with Pen Wonder International. And I'm thankful to this platform that it has given me so many opportunities to flourish, to brush up my poetry skills. I learn a lot from the weekly contests that are organized by this platform every week.
With the new tools on internet offering e-books for online reading, do you think that interest in a physical book has decreased?
Yes, I believe with the coming of e-books, the interest in reading has decreased considerably. But as a teacher, I make it a point to make my students read the text in the class. And because reading e-book is quite different from print book. While reading e-book, sometimes we get diverted because of the notifications, or we don't find one or two pages of the book that we have started reading interesting, and then we skip and then we move to another. So there are many diversions while reading e-books. While in print, the touch of the paper, the feel of the paper, when we just touch the paper and read the words, and words suddenly become ours. We can read them again and again. So as a teacher, I make my students read the text, and I still prefer the physical book more than the e-book, though e-book has its own advantages. It is easily accessible. We can at once read the book, and then everything is there with the click of a button. But still, as I personally feel and believe that nothing can replace the print book.
What's your advice to those who would like to start in the field of poetry?
My advice to the poets, budding poets, though I consider myself also a budding poetess, is that read. Read before you start writing. What nowadays youngsters prefer to do, that they prefer to write and read less. So what I want to tell them is read. This is still I do. I read more and write less. The more you read, the more you imbibe, the better writer you become. And everybody can write. This is also what I want to tell, that everybody can think, so everybody can write also. Everyone has a story to tell. So don't keep your story inside you. Just put them on paper. Put your stories on paper and feel light. It is always educative, delightful, and informative. If you put your thoughts on paper, you transfix them, you immortalize them. So don't feel shy to ask questions. Whatever your fears or doubts are, You just discuss them with your teacher and you can come up with the solutions, but do write and read more. Then only after many a reading you can start writing.
Do you think the networks are helping the new writers and poets?
Yes, networks are definitely helping writers. Personally, they have helped me a lot. As I mentioned earlier also, that scrolling the Facebook, I came across beautiful poetry groups. So these networks have helped me in flourishing as a poet. They have given me a platform where I can showcase my work and get reviews, constructive criticism also, which helps me to grow. So definitely these platforms and these networks are very helpful to the budding poets like me.
And now, finalizing our interview moment, kindly, could you recite a poem of yours for all of us now?
So here I come with my poem, Words Converse in a Verse. I repeat the title, Words Converse in a Verse. I wish to write words, well knitted, well woven, dancing and delightful, emotive and eloquent, profound and precise, a garland of flowers and beads. I sit silently in solitude. Impressions and images infuse, crisscross, pitter-patter. They fall upon the mind. I receive them rejoicing, embrace them in elation. Words own me, I owe to them. Unlock and unravel them. They become mine and shine. Words become mine and shine. Alive in my thoughts, nectar's draughts. Lively and lovingly they thrive. They converse in a verse. Unrecorded emotions, unspoken words intersperse. Purged, I put them on paper. Treasure troves of my leisure and labor. Treasure troves of my leisure and labor. Thank you.
I used to think if I couldn't
Wow,
find hope,
it's wonderful.
I should just let it all.
Dear poetess, I'm immensely grateful for this brilliant moment in your wonderful interview. Okay? Guys, you know, we have a date on the next Sunday. Okay? See you there. Bye bye.